So just a couple hours before we started recording, OpenAI kicked off its first ever DevDay, which is their conference for developers, where they made some very, very big announcements. And the biggest announcement was around the unveiling of something called GPTs. GPTs are custom versions of ChatGPT that you can actually create yourself, and they can do basically anything you can think of, it sounds like. So GPTs function like a version of ChatGPT that is tailored for a specific purpose or task. So, for example, some of the examples they've shared, you could build a GPT that functions, say, as a creative writing coach or a negotiation assistant, even something that gives you a bunch of information that's helpful when you're doing your laundry on different stains, like clothes to put together. And the cool part is there's absolutely no coding required to build GPTs. You can simply carry on a conversation with ChatGPT to build these. And you can just tell it what you want to see in a given GPT tool, give it instructions to follow, and upload information that your GPT can use to produce outcomes. So Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, demonstrated this functionality right on stage by building a prototype of a GPT he called Startup Mentor. And he did it basically in seconds just by typing in, build me a GPT that's going to essentially give advice to startup founders. And what's cool is he also uploaded a bunch of his transcripts from, say, past talks he's done on stage about startups that had advice. And this assistant was then able to inform its advice using what Altman himself had said in the past. Now, you can actually keep these GPTs private or actually share them with the wider community. And OpenAI announced that it's rolling out something called the GPT Store later this month, and that'll feature GPTs from verified builders. Now, on top of that, ChatGPT enterprise customers can also deploy their own internal only GPTs that can safely, use their own information for specific purposes or tasks. Now, that was just one of many announcements. Some other notable ones that came out of this event include the launch of GPT-4 Turbo, which is a new and improved version of GPT-4 that's more powerful and less expensive. What's really cool is it also draws on more recent knowledge base. So it actually includes info up until April of 2023. So soon ChatGPT will have a much better updated memory. It also expands the context window of ChatGPT up to 128,000 tokens. That's a 4x jump from the biggest previous version of GPT-4 and much, much bigger than the typical version we are often using as ChatGPT users. Significantly, it's also bigger than something we've talked about quite a bit on this podcast, Anthropic Claude's 100,000 token context window.
And just for context, that is about 100,000 words. So when you hear 128,000 tokens, it's basically like our last book was like 55,000 words. You could basically feed it twice.
Yep. A couple other things they launched that are really important, in our opinion, are the Assistance API. And this API makes it easier to build assistive experiences, including those powered by voice. They showed off some really cool voice assistants they were able to build using that API. OpenAI also said it is launching what it's calling a custom models program. So it says a team of its researchers will start working with a very small group of select enterprises to actually embed with them and train GPT-4 on their own custom domains of expertise. And then one more that jumped out is something they call Copyright Shield, which is a program where OpenAI will start covering customers that are caught on the wrong side of copyright lawsuits. So, Paul, suffice to say, my head is spinning. First up, just let's talk about GPTs. How big a deal are these?
Yeah, it was a lot. You and I were both feverishly taking notes and trying to kind of process all of this. The GPTs in particular, obviously jumped out to both of us. I think it sort of was the big news of the day to the non-developer crowd. Like, I think it's a big deal no matter what. Obviously, this event is for developers. So there was other things like the Assistant API that I saw some developer friends were geeking out about. To us, like, it's not as huge of a thing because we're probably not going to go in and use that per se. but the GPTs is for everyone, like literally giving us all the ability to program. So I know you and I were both doing the same thing. Like I'm just, as Sam's still talking, my mind is spinning with things we could build.
Mm.
And I think the real key here, as you mentioned, is zero coding ability needed. Massive disruption to the startup ecosystem. I mean, there's a lot of startup founders today who probably don't have a business model anymore. Like it just it became so easy to build things. This is going to have an impact on existing companies. May make a bunch of tools that have been created in the last 6 months obsolete, but opens up an entire new world of startups that can emerge out of this. And you don't have to be technical to build them now. So, I posted on LinkedIn right after it came out, and my first thought was like, wow, this is just democratizing programming. We've talked about Replit is going this direction. They want to build, make a billion programmers. This is the idea that a programmer in the future just talks to the machine, just tells it what you want. And so I initially wrote like your imagination is the only limitation. And then I actually went back when I was editing my own post before I published it. And I realized like, oh, wait, I could just go into GPT-4 Turbo and say, I'm an entrepreneur, specialize in marketing. We help clients, with AI literacy and driving strategy. Like, what are some tools I could build that could help us help these companies become, use responsible AI and take a human centered approach. This is whatever. Like, and like let GPT-4 tell
Mm.
me what GPTs to build. And then I'm like, oh, okay, like those sound amazing. And I said, okay, give me the prompts to build number 4. Like, let's go ahead and do that one. So like the idea of like experimentation and ideation around business development and tool development is it's just different. Like it's just one of those moments where you're like, okay, that just changes the way you conceive of these ideas and the way you build prototypes. And yeah, I mean, I just think you could be anybody. You could be a marketer, a sales rep, a customer service rep, an entrepreneur. You basically have the ability to now build tools around knowledge.
Mm.
Um, and that's a really, really powerful thing that I think it's going to take us a little while to process what that actually means and the impact it could have. But I know you and I, before we jumped on, we were saying like we used to run hackathons, like idea hackathons, basically marketing strategy hackathons for our clients when Mike and I, worked at an agency. And then now we do these applied AI workshops where we're identifying use cases for people and, how to pilot AI. And I was like, "Man, we should just run one of those for GPTs, like just
Mm.
get all these ideas flowing of things we could build for our event business, for our media business, for our online education business, for our advisory services. Like we do all of these things now, and so much of it is knowledge based. And this just to me, my head's just like swarming with ideas of things to build. And I was trying to like bring myself back in because I'm doing a talk tonight at like 6 o'clock. And I went in and changed the deck for that talk. After I was like, I gotta update the presentation for tonight. So yeah, I think that they're likely going to be a huge deal. And I'm not sure we'll comprehend fully yet how big of a deal for another couple months here until we start seeing the flood of these things emerging.
Yeah, tell me if this resonates for you at all, but watching it, I was just so immediately lit up and excited because I feel like we have such a background in being consultants and essentially coaches, trainers, educators, and we've created a fair amount of over the years intellectual property around certain frameworks, hackathons you mentioned. And I just immediately thought like, wow, the limiting factor for us hasn't necessarily been the ideas. It's been how do we build scalable tools and frameworks based and processes based on those. And this just
Oh yeah.
made me feel extremely excited because the hard work of arriving at those frameworks was done. It's like, wow, we could bring it to so many more people with these types of tools.
Yeah, I won't get into like the specific examples I have on my mind already. Somebody will go build them. But I'm with you 100%. Like there's I I don't know. I mean, I'll give one example like that anybody could do, but if you do a lot of public speaking or interviews or podcasts, things like that,
Hmm.
just to build like a GPT based on that knowledge base. So if someone wanted to be able to like have a conversation with you, like they could do it, and it's just trained on and has access to all of that knowledge. Um, yeah, it's just it unlocks knowledge in entirely new ways. It makes that knowledge interactive, and it is exciting. Like I'm glad I don't own a startup that probably got obsoleted by this. But I think that those people who did are going to have a world of new possibilities ahead of them to build even cooler stuff. And um, yeah, it's going to be so fascinating. I think it's just going to be an explosion of entrepreneurship with this kind of capability because it was one of the limiting factors previously is you needed a technical co-founder if you wanted to build
Mm.
a technology company. And I don't know that that's going to be true anymore.
Now, I want to talk about that point you've hinted at a couple times about the effect on startups, people building AI tools, SaaS solutions out there. I think tongue in cheek zoomed you that some of these founders are probably taking their first drink right about now when
Yeah.
some of these announcements came out. It does seem despite all the opportunity that we're all excited about, that overnight, this might change the game for some of the vendors and third party tool providers out there. Could you walk us through kind of how you're looking at that startup ecosystem in light of GPTs?
Well, I think we saw it as being pretty risky anyway. Like we've talked about for, the last almost 12 months now, this idea that, what is the mode of these SaaS companies? If they're just like thin wrappers for OpenAI's technology, like what was stopping OpenAI from just building those features themselves or the models themselves becoming capable of doing these things? And I think this is just the next step. Like
Mm.
it's just so obvious that um, there's very few knowledge work related things that GPT-4 and its next iterations and the other foundation models aren't going to be able to do, especially since this is just a prelude to the AI agent thing. You
Mm.
referenced this, but I made a note of let me see what it was. They said it's just a step toward AI agents. So we've talked about the idea of interactive agents on this podcast many times. We even had a whole topic dedicated to Andrej Karpathy, who went back to OpenAI after heading up AI at Tesla for 5 years in the spring of this year to work on this exact concept of these agents that can take actions. And so it's pretty apparent to me that OpenAI is further along than they're telling the public. Um, because Sam specifically said, I quote, I wrote it down, gradual and iterative deployment so that society can get prepared.
Mm.
Like they are moving very quickly toward a day where not only will you be able to build these things, they're going to be able to take actions on your behalf. They're going to start doing the work of knowledge workers in many ways. And so it's very apparent that that's where they're going. And I think this is one of the really important things that came out of today is like to future proof your company, to future proof your job, you really have to start looking at the tea leaves here of like what they're telling you they're going to be able to do. The other one that I made note of was Sam said, and I think you mentioned this, was what we launched today is going to look very quaint at the developer conference next year. So when we're back together again next year, this is going to look quaint, which I use a quote from Greg Brockman, the co-founder of OpenAI, in my talks all the time. That like Greg says, the most amazing fact about AI is that even though it's starting to feel impressive, a year from now we'll look back fondly on the AI that exists today as quaint and antiquated. So this is obviously like a frame of mind within OpenAI. Greg tweeted that in February of this year, a month before they released GPT-4. So when they talk about their current tech, which we all look at like, oh my gosh, GPTs, we can, as a non-developer, I can build something. They're like, oh my God, just wait. Like they know they've got something way more powerful than this and that it will be ready to unleash on the world a year from now, 6 months from now. So I think it's just really important to not just look at what they're announcing, but to look at what this is leading to. It's still very early innings of AI development. And so I think this is just a sign of more significant things to come. And so in the startup world, like really trying to think, is the thing we're building future proofed? Or is OpenAI just going to launch a tool in 3 months that obsoletes our entire idea?
Yeah, the AI agents conversation is continually fascinating because it really is a game changer if we end up having tools that can take actions on our behalf. And that really changes the value equation of, frankly, a lot of startups, I would say, out there if that comes to pass.
Yeah, so you and I obviously both follow Ethan Mollick, the Wharton professor, and we've talked about him on the show. But he tweeted right after the event. Um, Overall, I think a lot of AI startups and company initiatives just got folded into the core functions of GPT-4. The system is now faster and cheaper, works better with proprietary data, including using PDFs and documents when appropriate, and is more customizable by non coders. I was giving a talk at MIT early last week, and half the AI startups had ideas that were great and would also clearly be mostly eliminated a week later. Parentheses, I couldn't talk about that, about what I knew about GPTs at the time. This is a tough field to be a founder, a good field for users. That pretty much sums it up.
So, as we wrap this topic up, did any of the other announcements stand out to you as particularly significant here?
Yeah, I mean, I think the GPT-4 Turbo thing's a big deal. The no more, like, just from a user experience, that the knowledge base is now from April 2023 instead of September 2021. No more picking your models, which was quite annoying. Like, am I browsing? Am I doing DALI 3? Am I using advanced data analysis? Am I doing a traditional? Like, you don't have to do that anymore. It just kind of knows what you're doing. So I do think just the overall ChatGPT user experience jump, and then the 100 million weekly active users is the first time I think we're hearing that number.
Mm,
The OpenAI has been pretty guarded about the number of users for ChatGPT. And the number I kept hearing was still the one from January of 100 million active users that month. And so now we're at 100 million active users per week.
yeah.
That's a pretty big number.
And just one more argument for essentially why you should be paying for ChatGPT Plus at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they got to raise the price at some point,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah. I've seen people online and I start to agree with them that they'd pay 5 to 10 times the amount that they're paying now for access
uh,
to the
I
data.
think, like, if I was if I was being questioned about it, I think I would probably pay at least $100 per month per user right now. I don't know, like, but I'm in a small business environment. I'd be willing to do that, I think. So,
Yeah,
like, if it was you and I, and it was like, well, we need access. Like, I would. I don't think I would think twice about paying $100 a month for each of
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a great value.